It's Sunday, August the 17th, 2025, 10 o'clock a.m. on the East Coast of America. This is Coffee with Frankie, and this is the Frankie from Flatbush theme song that we play before the show.
Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustling dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow. Lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway on the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill. Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow. Lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. Lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow. Lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
All right, mic check, mic check. We got to check the mic. How we sounding today? Let me know in the chat. We got a lot of folks in the chat. But let's do a mic check. Mic check 1, 2. We got to check the mic. We got to check the camera. We got to check the bell. We got to check everything because you just never know what's going to go on. Audio visual 100%, Phil Adams says. All right. So let's take this off for this Sunday. It's Coffee with Frankie Day. Take this off. Let's get amongst it, as some people say. Harlan Abraham is here. Phil Adams is here. JoJo was a man from Tucson, Arizona. He's here. Todd is here. Alan Doge is here. The Book of Deuteronomy. Frankie and coffee. 2 things every Sunday news. This is the coffee. I'm the Frankie. We had a lot of things to talk about. Some of them not so good. Eli Rafster's here. What did you think of the first team being pulled? That's the plan. That's what everybody does. Alan Doge. Todd likes the punter. We got a punter, ladies and gentlemen. You know, good things. You got to look for the positives. Sometimes. We got a punster. Joe Mike is here. Good to see Joe Mike. Always has the lengthy comments. He says, okay, we're not winning the Super Bowl. Well, we already knew that, Joe. Amazing what a difference a week can do to the fan base. Well, anybody who's telling you we're going to win the Super Bowl based on the Packers game is just retarded or stupid. I mean, what fan realistically thought we were going to the Super Bowl based on that Packers game? I mean, the realistic take of the Packers game was, okay, good, nice, good job. Let's see what else we got. I mean, that's all you could really take from that. Anybody who thought we were going to the Super Bowl based on the Packers game is retarded. Sorry. Mike is good. Bell is good. JoJo was hoping to see some consistency, and they looked uninspired to play. Well, they're not uninspired. They just executed poorly. This is actually a key point. Let's focus in on this. What JoJo's saying here. The way to think about this, and this is a common thing among sports fans. So I'm bringing this up because this people say things like this all the time. And let's use a baseball analogy to think about this, shall we? In baseball, when the team is not hitting, everybody says they're lazy, they are uninspired, they're not hustling, they're not doing nothing. And really, it's just because they're not hitting. And when they are hitting and they're getting home runs and doubles and singles and hits all over the place, running around the bases, everybody says, wow, what an inspired team. They're really fired up, when really they're just hitting well. And it's the same thing in football. It has nothing to do with inspiration or effort or anything like that. It was that they sucked at certain things. For example, the throw to Breece Hall that Justin Fields didn't make. On that play, Membu got beat badly by Kayvon Thibodeau. And Thibodeau was in Fields' face. He tried a jump throw thing, and it was not good. But the reason it wasn't good is because Membu got his ass beat by Thibodeau very badly on that play. It has nothing to do with inspiration, has everything to do with execution. And that's an eternal lesson for all sports at all times. Sometimes you're just not good enough. And there's one person, if you remember, JoJo, telling people our roster isn't good enough. This guy. I told you in the summertime, and you guys tried to tell me, the team's going to be inspired, and Aaron Glenn's going to fire them up. And I said, well, there's not enough good players here. And everybody got mad at me. But I looked at the roster and said, we did not do enough in the offseason to bolster the roster for it to be good. Now, we're missing some people, so we got to see what happens when everybody comes back. We're missing some of our frontliners last night, for example. Will McDonald didn't play. Jermaine Johnson didn't play. Sauce didn't play. That's a lot of important people not playing. Quinnen didn't play. That's a lot of important people not playing, right? So we got to keep that in check. But at the same time, the backups are not good enough, and were never good enough. And I told you that as we acquired them. They're not good enough. Turns out they're not good enough. Now, let's see how it looks when we have everybody. Jermaine Johnson, maybe coming back this week. And that'd be great because he's important. But everybody needs to just, remember who said what in the summertime. Yeah, well, this is true, Phil, but that's every team every week who loses. Make the mistakes in the preseason. Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Like a guy like Membu, okay, he can learn from that. That's a rookie. He's going to do rookie things sometimes. That's just the way it is. And that was the only one that he kind of screwed up, I think. So, but still, things happen. We got a punter. Yeah. Hi, Karate is here. He says, good morning, everyone. On the plus side, Clemens didn't make a penalty. Hey, let's look at the silver linings. JoJo, Frankie facts. Yeah, got to have the facts, JoJo. Jet 41. He knows he has to work on things. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at some things. So we have some proprietary drive chart data that we could take a look at. When you look at the drive chart data, and when you look at the game again, as I did I didn't have enough time to look at the whole thing. You realize, you can't really actually take too much from that game. It was really, if you think about it, one terrible play, that bomb, And then, other than that, the Giants didn't do too much with their first team offense, actually. And the Jets didn't do too much, but they did have one good drive. So the reality is that game was probably, if you think about it, it's probably 7-3, 7-6 going to halftime. If it was a real game, and then at halftime, Wilson would have come out and Fields would have come out with the regulars, and you would have had to see what would happen then. Just so happened that their backups are better than our backups, or played better, anyways. But our backups we already knew weren't good, and the backups to our backups are certainly not good. And that in a lot of the positions, that's who had to play, because Johnson and McDonald and Quinnen and BC, basically our whole starting, if you think about it, our whole starting defensive line didn't play, which meant the second team had to play first against their starters, and then the third team had to play against their back. And our third team is terrible, and the fourth stringers and all these other people. So if you think about it, our entire starting defensive line being out, made the defense look pretty bad, especially in the second half when you have guys that are just not NFL players running around. And the Giants also have 4 quarterbacks on their team with NFL starting experience, plus, 3 with NFL starting experience, plus Jackson Dart, who's a promising rookie who has played a lot of college ball. He had a lot of games played. That's one thing you can definitely say in favor of Jackson Dart. Played a lot of games in college, and I kind of like that about college quarterbacks when they play a lot and they have a lot of college experience. Then they come to the league. You think, okay, that experience can help them. And that's how it looks with Jackson Dart so far. So they have Dart and plus 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now who all played last night, who have starting experience in the NFL, a lot of starting experience for 2 of them, and then Tommy Cutlets, who has some as well. So, and they're going against our 3rd and 4th and 5th stringers, and they're lighting them up, and you would expect them to, right? So it really wasn't as bad as it looked, but it definitely wasn't good. Joe Mike with another long comment. Yeah, I mean, Joe, obviously, if somebody gets released that we can snatch, we're going to snatch them up. But teams generally don't let go of really good players. Maybe we could get one, like you were talking about, Stackhouse. Maybe we could grab him. But we'll be on the lookout for that. Well, we should be anyway. I mean, why we're not signing a safety or a defensive tackle or end that's available now, I don't know. We have to ask Muji about that. But there's players out there right now that you can just sign for money that would improve the defense. They're just sitting there right now. Safety, defensive end, tackle is pretty thin, but yeah, if somebody sneaks through, and don't forget, we're 8th on the waiver claim list. So if somebody really good's out there, one of the 7 teams ahead of us will probably snatch them up. But if somebody sneaks through and somebody behind us picks them up, then we should be mad about it. Dart was much better. Well, yeah, Dart played like Jackson Dart. I mean, if you watch the kid in college, he's very good. The only real negative about him in college was some people were saying that he's a one read and run type of dude. He doesn't go through his progressions very well. So we'll have to see about that. But other than that, he was a first round pick for a reason. Spin Max Dave is here. The Jets not as deep. Yeah. Yeah, they sure did. Well, the standout players, I wish I had more time. Let's go through. We'll talk about standout players in a moment, but let's go through the drive chart data. Then we'll go through some commentary by our beat writers. Tommy DeVito. Yeah, so Tommy DeVito could be a guy we take a look at. That's somebody I mentioned last night on the broadcast, Joe, if you were listening on the Green Bean channel. So it was on the Green Bean channel for the watch along last night for those of you who joined. And those of you who may not know, the old Green Bean channel is something to watch when we have these watch-alongs. It's me and Green Bean and Jets Chaos, a.k.a. Jeremy, the Cataract Counteract. So I mentioned that last night. It's like Tommy DeVito is definitely going to get cut by them. It seems like, unlike the Browns, I don't think they're going to carry 4 quarterbacks. They might, I guess, but DeVito has starting experience in the NFL and has had some level of success. So he's definitely somebody we would consider, especially if Tyrod's going to be down actually for the start of the season. We don't know. They're saying he's going to be ready for week 1, but you never know with these injuries. So, yeah, he's definitely somebody we should consider. But let's go to the summary of the game. We'll take a look at some things from the drive charts, and then we'll take a look at some PFF stuff, and then we got 2 articles to look at of people writing about our team and see what they say. So we had this Jets game. Here's what happened on offense. Now, we're mostly in 11 personnel, 71.4% of the time, 12 personnel. And I counted last night. Now, it gets tricky because what is Andrew Beck? When Beck was in the game last night, I counted him as a tight end. So that's skewing the 12 personnel. Otherwise, if you counted him as a running back, then 21 personnel would have a couple of more. But we're basically running 11 and 12 and 21. So no 10. So the thing about the personnels is no 10 personnel at all in either of these games. 10 personnel is 4 wide receivers. Now, that's important because in an RPO scheme, you want to run some 10 personnel. And we're not seeing a lot of RPOs out of this team so far. And that's something that we really have to monitor. Are they keeping that a secret? They don't want to show teams that that's what we're going to do heavy. I mean, we're going to do a few of them. Every team does. But how much are we going to do RPOs? My thought in the offseason was we're going to be like 30, 40%. Remember, when Justin Fields was with the Steelers, they ran an offense designed originally for Russell Wilson. But when Fields took over for him because of injury in those 6 games, they only ran 5% RPOs, which I thought was a mistake, personally. He still went 4-2. He still had a plus 37 point differential in those 6 games and was doing pretty good. I mean, not elite or anything, but he was doing pretty good, even though he was not running a lot of RPOs. So I thought we would get him and run a lot of RPOs, 30, 40%, 25%, some high percentage like that. So far to date, we have not, and we have not seen the formations that would tell you we're going to do that, which would include a lot of 10 personnel. We're not doing that. So the question is going to be, okay, are we hiding that for the regular season or what are we doing? So that's something to watch. So far, we have not gotten an indication that we're going to be running a heavy RPO system, which is concerning, considering the strengths and weaknesses of our quarterback. Play distribution, 19 runs I had it as, and 23 pass attempts. I only did 42 plays on the drive charts, and I didn't do the percentage here, but you can figure it out. It's about 54% for pass attempts. And I look at attempts, and so I only did 42. I stopped at halftime. I didn't want to get into the second half with all the UPS drivers playing. That's not really helpful. I forgot to write in the percentage here for pass attempts, but you can see it's about 55% pass attempts. Now, when a quarterback scrambles, I count that as a pass attempt because you're attempting to pass, and then the quarterback has to scramble. So my stats are a little different than the official game stats. And I also count plays that are run that a penalty calls back. So if you run a play and then there's a penalty during the play and they call it back, I keep that in the stats because it's an attempt. You were attempting to do something. So my stats are a little different than the official stats. Now, if you look at these drives, it's not really that bad. It's not great if you look at it. The first 2 are the Fields drives, and then the last 4 are the A-Mart drives. So, you really want the best scoring teams in the league, the best, score on 50% of their drives. So that would be a goal. You want to be a top scoring team? Okay, score on 50% of your drives. We scored on 33.3% of our drives in the first half, and they were 2 field goals. So you also have to consider whether you're getting field goals or touchdowns. But really, if you think about it, we had 2 nice drives, the ones we got field goals on, including the second one. where we ran almost exclusively. And even the 2 pass attempts, one was a scramble. And then Amart came in. He had 3 mad drives, didn't do anything. But then, had a nice drive, a 12-play drive, 3 runs, 9 passes, 4 first downs, no penalties, and we got a field goal. And it was 7-6 at the half. People forget that. It was 7-6 at the half, and then the Giants' third and fourth stringers killed our third and fourth stringers. But we didn't turn the ball over. That's a positive. And you'd really like one more scoring drive. So if you think about it, like 2 out of 6 scoring drives, okay, that's below average. But if you scored on one more of your drives, it would be 50%, and you'd be at the top of the league, especially if you punched it in for a touchdown. So for a game that looked like we got blown out, which we did, it was 7-6 at the halftime, and it really wasn't as bad as it looked. That one play was pretty terrible looking, that 80-yard pass from Moonball Wilson. And that looked bad, and it was bad. But, again, it's just one play. What about the defense? Jay Tufele disappeared, as predicted. The personnel. So the thing about this is, for our defense, our base defense has been extremely high percentage-wise. And this is in accordance with how the Lions were last year. So that third linebacker is going to be very important, and it's looking like it's Jamin Davis. 52.6% base, our base is a 4.3, is extremely high. Extremely high. For comparison, during the Saleh Ulbrich era, that would be 15 to 20%, something like that, 25 max. We're at 52.6 in this game. We were also at a very high percentage in the first game, and last year the Lions were at 44% and led the league. So we're gonna. Looks like now we got to see if this carries over to the regular season, but I think it would, especially considering that the Lions led the league at 44% last year. And I forgot to put in the percentages here. You can see I ran out of time this morning. In the play distribution, I forgot the percentages, but you can see it's basically 50-50. And the other in the personnels is one. We had one goal line where we just put in a bunch of big dudes on the line. So very important to understand our base. It looks like we're going to be a very high base percentage team. And then, so if that's the case, how are you going to defend against 11 personnel from the other team versus base? That's something I'll be looking very closely at. Then we have the drives. So you look at their drives. I mean, we remember the one bad one because it was the first one, but really, they didn't have any long drives in the first half. Really, 5 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays, 4 plays, 3 plays. And these are all with Russell Wilson. I think they brought in Dart for like 1 play, which was weird. Then they took him out. So they only scored on 20% of their drives in the first half. And then they did have a turnover. They had that weird interception that Moonballs threw. So if you look at it this way, I mean, the defense didn't even play that bad, and we didn't have any of our starting defensive line, and Sauce Gardner was out. So, that's not too bad when you think about it. But it looks bad when your first drive, on your first drive, they're throwing a bomb, and you look like a Keystone Cops out there because Andre Sisco's no good, and they kill you with an 80-yard bomb. I mean, 80-yard bombs are not going to make people too happy, but at the same time, it's just one drive. They hit that one, okay. And then after that, 3-play punt, 4-play interception. They were driving on that one a little bit, but Wilson threw that moonball pick, a weird throw. He threw it outside. The guy went inside. It happens. And then they punted, and that was it. So 1 turnover, 1 score, and it was 7-6 at the half, and a lot of our good people were out. So when you look at it that way, it actually looks a lot better than it was. So, I don't know, a little bit of encouragement, I guess, on a Sunday morning. All right, so that's all the Frankie drive chart data. Let's see what you guys have to say about that. Tommy Cutlets. The refs, yeah. The refs, and I think they hit us a little harder than them, but that happens. We got Skinner, yes. Skinner's probably not going to make the team. Hate to tell you guys. Green Bean wanted to count almost drops, yeah. Yeah, we're not going to count almost drops, okay? Let's not go crazy. Like, it's bad enough that now we're counting drops. Now that's like an official stat or whatever. I don't know if it's an official stat, but a lot of people, where a lot of places you go, you can see it. We're not doing almost drops. If the guy catches it, he catches it. I don't care if it's an almost drop. Forget that. No way. Infrared's here. Good morning, Frankie Familia. The permanent backup quarterback is Tyrod, unless he's hurt. Jet starters didn't commit any penalties. There's another plus. Hey. Yeah. That's what, when you have a 3-play drive, 4-play drive, I mean, they basically had 4 first downs in the first half, 2 of them in the first drive. Then we gave up 1 and 1 on for the rest of the half. That's not bad, especially, again, considering our entire first line defense for the D-line is out. Dodes, they also may be using a lot of base information. They don't want to show their hand. Well, I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so, Dodester, is because we were, as I said, the lines were 44% base last year. Now, it might change. It may not be as high as 52. Maybe we go down to 40, 45, but that's still very high. 44% led the league last year. And that was the Lions in where Glenn was. And so I think it's going to be indicative of what we do. We'll keep track of it, of course. And maybe it'll go down. But it'll be interesting to see what it is and how we defend 11 personnel from base if we decide to do that. A lot of teams are running out of 11 personnel. And so if you have linebackers who can cover people, which we do, they're fast, Sherwood, Quincy certainly, then it's not a terrible idea because a lot of teams are starting to try to run out of 11 personnel. What has evolved in the NFL is teams will bring in 11 personnel, defenses will respond with their nickel, and then they run out of that using like a C-gap insert on the wide receiver to get a mismatch against your little nickel defender. Well, what if we didn't give them that mismatch? Okay, then they're going to say, okay, they're not allowing us to do that. Let's throw on it. And then we got to cover those people with those linebackers. Or that one linebacker that would be replaced by the nickel defender. So that's the chess match in football. PC Salami. Yeah, everybody's going to be concerned about Fields until he plays better. Todd says, give Frank a like. Yeah, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like. Subscribe. Whatever you want. PC Salami, I think the defense will be solid. Well, it'd be nice to see it. We'll have to see. Now, snap counts. Let's talk about snap counts. Because the PFF grades are not out, but the snap counts are. Now, an interestingly, Brandon Smith led the way on offense. Brandon Smitty, B. Smitty, got a shout out from the head coach. So Brandon Smith is an interesting guy who could sneak onto the roster. He played well. All he does is get open and catch the ball. I mean, he probably needs a bit of a run. I mean, we're running out of time now, but he needs a run against the ones to figure out, okay, is it just because he's dominating the backups or can this guy really play? Be nice to see it. But anyway, he's making his case. All you can do is dominate the players in front of you. You can just dominate your reps. That's all you can do. And then it's up to the coaches to move you up to the next level. Xavier Newman, Cole Laval, some of these people played because we got our starting line out early. But Arian Smith, 32 snaps. He had his moments, had a drop, but had his moments. So he might be a factor. We'll have to see. Adrian Martinez, Carter Warren. so forth and so on. Pritchett got 25 snaps. Okie Wilson got 22. And all the way down here, Scratchy Malachi, 14. So not looking too good there. And then on defense, Dean Clark played a lot. He had kind of like lucky interception he had. He was just standing there, and it reflected off of Sermon, and he caught it, so that's good. Tyler Barron played a lot and didn't do much. So I'm kind of worried about Tyler Barron and Kiko Mawagoa. They are not looking like real players. Bump Cooper, he also got injured, played 28 snaps. Aaron Smith. Malachi Moore, I'm not liking his tackling techniques or lack thereof. And he's also not fast, so I don't know how he's going to play safety, but we'll have to see. LT3 didn't make none of the line really made much of a splash. Braden McGregor was in there and started even. Didn't seem to do much, didn't pop out. Jordan Clark played 23 snaps. I'd like to watch the tape on Jordan Clark to see how he did, actually. Watts, Weston, all these dudes here. Fatorma Mulba, 15 snaps. Didn't seem to pop out much. Michael Fletcher, Rashad Weaver, so forth and so on. So those are the snap counts there. I'm not sure what we can tell from the snap counts other than it looked like they really wanted to give a hard look, as Jeff Ulbrich would say, to Brandon Smith. That seemed pretty obvious. They were really trying to get a look at him and also give Aaron Smith, some experience. So that you kind of see that. And other than that, it just looks like Malachi Corley is not part of the plans for this team. Kene Nwangu looked good, I thought. So players who stood out, let's answer this question from Joe Mike from before. I think it was Joe Mike. Who stood out? Brandon Smith stood out for sure, and I'm just going to go down the list here. Arian Smith, you saw what he could do route running and speed-wise. Let's hope he doesn't have the dropsies in the regular season, strobe goggles or not. We saw that, Joe Tippmann is the starting center, but he did have another bad snap, so that's something to watch. But Josh Myers is clearly the backup. He's just not good. Membu stood out for that one bad play, but otherwise played okay. Simpson played 18 snaps, so that's good news. He's back from injury. That's the good news there. So hopefully he's all good to go. Injury-wise, Beck doing the sniffer thing, so that's good. I think that'll be a key for the offense, hopefully. Then let's go over to the defense. Dean Clark, Tyler Barron, Cooper, Smith, Moore. These guys stood out for being bad or just not impactful. Really, nobody on the defense stood out to me, except for Jarius Monroe actually had, I think, a couple of nice plays, but the kind of plays that you got to watch on tape. So that may be something that we take a look at on tape this week, maybe do a little film study on old Jarius Monroe, because I think he had a nice open field tackle. Then he had some nice coverage on another play. Jarius Monroe could be somebody that steals Malachi Moore's spot as a starting safety. Moore's going to make the team, but he might be one of these guys. If we might keep like 5 safeties, say. Then if we do that, if we love Monroe and he starts, say, then Malachi Moore will be on the 53, but he'll be inactive, say. But Monroe, I thought, looked good. Tufele did not follow up his Linsanity run from last week. Cisco looked bad, obviously, on that one play. Yeah. So interestingly, Michael Carter II only played 4 snaps. So there's 2 guys I want to take a look at on film. So if Carter only played 4 snaps, that means that in all the other nickel formations, Jordan Clark was probably in the nickel spot because he played 23 snaps. And I didn't really notice Jordan Clark, but I wasn't really looking for him. So that's something I want to dig a little bit deeper into. How did Jordan Clark look? That's a sneaky guy who can make our team as the backup nickel. Because right now our backup nickel is probably Oliver, and he backs up a lot of spots, and that's why he's going to make the team. Isaiah Oliver. So that's someone I want to take a look at. But I think the other thing, Brady Cook is looking like something you can work with, somebody that you can sneak on a practice squad, and work with in the future. He's not looking like a complete disaster out there. So that's also good. All right, so let's see what Zach Rosenblach has to say. Oh yeah, this is a play that some people are highlighting. It was a nice chip. The guy was a little off kilter, and he smacked him to the ground. Yeah, nice, good job by Stone Smart. Not much to it. That's what you're supposed to do as a tight end when you're chipping. So I think Carter was just off kilter and got smashed, and then Jukes kind of like blocked him to the ground again. So that was a nice little play. So let's see what the Athletic is saying about the Jets. Okay. At some point, Justin Fields will have to throw the ball. It would be nice to see it this summer. So this is Zach Rosenblatt. He's taking. So this is going to be a narrative for them. You could tell from the questions that they're asking. This is going to be a focus of the beat. They're just going to keep asking about this. It says here, the way the Jets have run their offense this summer. Oops. In preseason games and training camp practices, it would be fair to suggest they're passing on passing. It's not hard to see the vision. A running quarterback in Fields, a trio of running backs, offensive line, run it down your throat. Old school smash mouth football. On Saturday night against the Giants, the Jets showed what they can look like when it's working. They were handing it off on 3rd and 8. Braylon Allen bursting through a hole, gaining 11 yards for a first down. If you can get first downs running on 3rd and long, why pass it? Then there was another run, and another, and another. Fields dropped back to pass, blah, blah, blah. 10 straight runs, and then Fields attempted to pass and didn't go well. The Jets settled for a field goal drive. Was an impressive show of the ground game, but this is the part of the season when quarterback could use some practice. Well, throwing the ball. At some point, Fields is going to have to do just that to win a regular season game. For the second straight week, and that includes practices, Fields hasn't thrown it very far past the line of scrimmage, averaging 3.9 air yards. That's no good. Per attempt on 9 passes over 2 preseason games, that number would look similar if anyone was tracking it during 2 joint practices against the Gigantes. Hard to remember the last time Fields threw the ball more than 20 yards in the air. He's progressing, Glenn said. The passes he did throw weren't very good. His first throw was a short dump off on a rollout to Mason Taylor for 4 yards, the only passing yards he registered. On his second pass, edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau easily got by right tackle Armand Membu, and as he was hitting Fields, the quarterback attempted a jump pass. It sailed over Hall's head. The third pass was a bad snap. This is one thing about Joey Tips that we got to get fixed. How many bad snaps are we going to put up with, Joey Tips? But there was not a defender in sight. Fields bounced a pass intended for Wilson on a screen. Wilson would have been tackled for a loss anyway. The blocking was terrible, but it was a bad throw nonetheless. The fifth passing play came on that all-runs drive when he opted to scramble rather than hit Hall in the flat. Final pass, 3rd down incompletion intended for Wilson. 1 of 5. Fields completed. And they asked him about it. He said, I was thinking about that today. Fields said, it's the defense taking it away. It'll come. No need to force it. When you force it, that's when tipped balls and picks happen. He's going to take what the defense gives him. blah, 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 blah. And so this is going to be, this is going to be a talking point for the media, so get ready for that. Our passing game has to be better. At least Glenn said that much. We all know that, and it will be better. Well, you don't know that, Aaron. You don't know that, AG. It could be better or it could be worse. We don't know, Coach. We have to get back to work. There's going to be a lot of noise on the outside, but our guys know we have to put our heads down and get back to work. Yes, sir. This is the time of year to work through those lumps, but the Jets would be better served by Fields actually trying to make those plays rather than avoiding them altogether. Well, of course, while it's fair to criticize what we've done so far, I don't think criticism from Zach Rosenblatt is really warranted because what does he know about football? By his own admission, very little. Okay, next up, Rich Samini. And he's writing about Jermaine Johnson this morning. Jermaine Johnson is ready to set the tone. Yeah, it'd be good if he actually, instead of setting a tone, how about setting an edge? How about that? But anyway, they missed his rugged mentality and explosiveness and his attitude, and he plays with a swagger and all of this, blah, 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 blah. I don't make excuses, he said. In my opinion, I got a cheat code in my leg now. I got a stronger Achilles and I'm faster. On proving to people that he's back to his Pro Bowl form, I'm going to bull rush anybody. So this is basically just taking the quotes that we all saw that he made from the press conference and making a column out of it. So that doesn't really say much. Hall's patience. So they asked Breece Hall about Kyron Williams and James Cook getting a lot of money. And they said, what about you, Breece? And he said, hey, they're both very good players. I'm as talented as anyone, but those guys are two really good running backs, and they deserve their payday, and they got what they deserve, he said. The difference isn't as substantial as he thinks. Hall has an edge in scrimmage yards. If he can deliver a good season, he will look for a deal similar to Cook's, and Williams' contract might be too rich for the Jets, but I think they can very easily afford it, especially with so many other key players up for new contracts. They got plenty of money. No problem. Corley's clock, if they want him. That's the question, really. Corley's clock ticking. It's clear from practice and game usage that second-year wide receiver Malachi Corley is on the roster bubble. League-wide, it's unusual for a former third-round pick to be in such a precarious position this soon. They usually get a free pass for 2 or 3 years. Corley wasn't just any third-round pick. He was the top pick in the round. He also cost the Jets 2 draft picks because they traded up 7 spots to take him. That was probably no bueno. None of the 64 players picked ahead of him have been released. For the Jets, a quick goodbye wouldn't be unusual. That's because we drafted bums. Ja'Kai Polite, Jabari Zuniga. We said goodbye to them. What a kick. It's a small world sometimes. Austin McNamara trained at Roush Kicking, an Arizona-based company founded by former Arizona State kicker Steve Roush. Roush is married to Kelly Gastineau Roush, the sister of former Jets great Mark Gastineau. Boy, there's a stretch. So he's really trying to scratch out a column today. McNamara, who grew up in Arizona, didn't make the Cincinnati Bengals roster last year as a UDFA, but he has impressed this summer, including a great showing yesterday. What's up first? Rookie right tackle Arma Membu is receiving effusive reviews from his teammates, but he still has some pass pro techniques to clean up, and his week 1 assignment is a tough one. TJ Watt. Then we're talking about John Abraham and a shirt he wore. Okay. Samini thinks this is an important thing to bring to our attention for some reason. What a bargain. One of the surprise standouts at camp is Jay Tufele. Signed a 1-year, $1.2 million contract with no guaranteed money. Veteran journeyman. He's a veteran journeyman. Camp Glenn. It's a physical camp. Jets have had 9 days with no practice, though, compared with 6 days last year at this time. Glenn's philosophy, push them hard when they're on the field, but balance that with rest. Okay. Fast fact. This might be a surprise, but the Jets had the second fastest team in the league last season per GPS tracking. It's a stunner because they also had one of the oldest teams. Not sure. This is a completely acontextual fact that has no bearing on anything. This is a terrible column, by the way. Why is this guy writing up for the Jets about the Jets? This is terrible. This told us nothing. Jeez, man. Why? This is like the laziest column ever. Why is Dick Chimney still covering this team? He clearly hates it. He's telling us about John Abraham's shirt. For God's sakes. Let's report on this shirt. Oh, my goodness. It's not enough that he put out a tweet about it. No, let's put it in a column also. So stupid. I wish we could get a real columnist. Can we get somebody better than this doofus? Please? Please, ESPN. For God's sake, the man clearly hates his job. For God's sake. That's the ESPN column about the Jets this week. We learned about a shirt. We got a reiteration of the quotes that people had during the week, which we already knew, and we learned that some guy trained at a facility where the sister of Mark Gastineau is married to this one and that one. What the fuck is this? What kind of a column is this? What, is there nobody more qualified in the world than this schmuck to write about the Jets? I mean, even if you wanted to bang on the Jets and say how terrible they are, or analyze the game from last night, or do something, we're reporting on a shirt and quotes that we already knew. Like, when I first saw the headline of this, it says Jermaine Johnson is ready to set the tone for the Jets. I thought what Dick Chimney was going to write about was, okay, after the game, we learned that Jermaine is going to start practicing in full or something this week, and you're going to see him Tuesday and Wednesday in pads banging on the offensive lineman or something. I thought he was going to say something like that. Nope. We don't even get that much. He has a headline about Jermaine Johnson, and it's all about the quotes he said earlier in the week that we already knew. There's absolutely no news in here. Well, unless you want to count shirt news. We got T-shirt news in here. Corley's clock is ticking. Yeah, we know. We know, Rich. We know his clock is ticking. But don't worry. This ace journalist is going to bring you news about where Austin McNamara kicked in training and how the training facility wife is with Mark Gastineau's sister. That's very important information. Who the fuck cares? Why is this guy? Why is he the beat reporter for ESPN? This is Disney, one of the biggest companies in the whole wide world. They got more money than God. They could find somebody really good. Instead, they got this schmuckola. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to cover the Jets for ESPN and would do a much better job than this guy. He has an item in here saying that basically Membu's going to have to block TJ Watt. That's the analysis we're getting from this guy. Oh, really? I didn't know TJ Watt was on the Steelers. I didn't know he was on the defensive line and he's going to be rushing the passer and that it's the responsibility of the tackles to block him. I did not know that. Wow. What a phenomenal comment from Dick Chimney. I mean, this is probably the worst column I've ever seen in my life. Jay Tufele's contract number is only $1.2 million. You know what that means? That means the entire NFL thought Jay Tufele was not worth more than $1.2 million. That's what it means. It doesn't mean they got a bargain. It means the entire league thought he stinks. That's what it means. Because nobody was willing to give him more than $1.2 million, which is basically the least you can make as a veteran in the league, pretty much, around that much. That's what it means. But he's not going to tell you that because he's dumb. That's why. And then he tells you, what's the point of telling us we had the fastest team in the league, second fastest, according to GPS tracking? Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? We had a lot of guys that could run fast. Yeah, but could they play football? No. But they run real fast. But we play football. We need football players. I mean, speed is important in football. But if all you do is run fast and you don't know how to tackle Malachi Moore, or you don't know what to do and you line up incorrectly and you have a lot of penalties, or you just run wrong routes, or you just have your head up your ass, it doesn't really matter if you're fast, does it? No. So what's the point of including this? He's got to write something. Ugh. It's hard to understand. I mean, this is ESPN, the worldwide leader. That's why we're FSPN, because F ESPN. But this is a company that's owned by Disney and now has 10%. The NFL now owns 10% of this company, Disney ESPN. I mean, they have more money floating around in this company than God. And yet they can't find anybody better than Dick Chimney to cover the Jets. I mean, I understand the Jets are not exactly a plum assignment. But at the same time, you would think you could find somebody to write. There's a lot of stuff to write about with this team, with any team in the NFL. There's tons of stuff to write about. And this is what this guy is producing. I guess there's just no way to judge other than Frankie opinions. No way to judge this guy against what somebody else could do. And because maybe it really doesn't matter, because all Jet fans are going to come here and, just like I did, come here and read his column because it's the only one here. And so if you're getting a certain amount of volume, it's like, how much more volume can you get by hiring somebody else? It's just so frustrating. The state of our media is just really, really something. It really is. All right, Frankie rant over. Let's check Twitter to see if there's anything breaking today. Happy birthday, BJ Adams. Happy birthday, Divine Diablo. Doesn't look like anything. Snap count, Zach Rosenblatt is saying. Rosenblatt says Nwangu feels safe at this point for his role on special teams. I kind of agree with that. So at least Rosenblatt will try to give you some context. Remember last week, Chimney gave you the snap counts, but he didn't put it into context. So at least Rosenblatt tries to do that. He gives some snap counts, and then he says Nwangu feels safe at this point for his role on special teams. That's context. He also gives you some context on Donovan Edwards. So then he says the wide receiver gives the snap counts for. Well, let's just take a look at this. This is kind of interesting. This is Rosenblatt. Now, this is what you want to do. If you're going to take a look at the snap counts, fine, you list it. But then you should give some context as to what the hell's going on with these people. Why are we looking at the snap counts? What does it mean? That's called context. And Rosenblatt, to his credit, is trying to do so. Okay, running back battle. Running back 4, basically. Edwards, 8 carries, 21 yards, plus 1 catch, 7 yards. He played 5 snaps on special teams, which is notable. That's his path to the roster. Okay, it says Nwangu feels safe at this point for his role on special teams. So maybe Kene has an advantage over Donovan. Wide receiver gives you the snap counts. Wide receiver room is an interesting one. Wilson, Reynolds, Johnson, Smith feel safe. Yeah, they are safe. Wilson, Reynolds, Johnson, that's Tyler Johnson. Smith is Arian Smith. And then Lazard, depending on health. And then you have Pritchett. He says Pritchett feels like he has the edge over Gibson. Then if the Jets keep 7, it feels like it's between Smith and Skinner. So you see, that would be Brandon Smith and Skinner. And there's no room for Corley. Skinner has been really impressive as a deep threat lately, while Smith has been all around one of their best performers throughout the summer. And there's no room for Unless we make some trades, maybe somebody wants Lazard, like the Steelers or somebody. Unless we make a trade or something, I don't see. And maybe we could trade Corley for something. I don't know. You're not going to get much. You're not going to get much. But but this is better. This is a better tweet. Let's rank the tweeting. This is this is a better tweet than what we got from Chimney when he just lists out the snap counts without context. Here's the snap counts. Oh, what am I supposed to do with this? But at least Rosenblatt is trying to give some context. So it looks like Kane is going to make it. I would agree. Kane is a top-notch kick return guy. People forget he started the game yesterday with a great kick return. And that's kind of what he does. I mean, that's his bailiwick. He has 5 career touchdowns on kickoffs, and we need something. To something, some kind of scoring. This team maybe we get it on kickoff returns. Who knows? All right, now let's go to the comments. We've kind of lost track of comments here. Corley needs a new clock. Well, maybe we could trade him for something. I don't know. Texas, Ohio State. Yeah, we're going to watch that one live. We're going to watch this one live, Infrared, on this channel. We're going to cover it because we got Arch Manning playing. I forget who the Ohio State quarterback is, but I'm sure he's somebody good. And lots of NFL talent will be on the field that day. So we're going to watch it. PC says totally evacuate. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how do they let this guy stay? Does anybody have a way to qualitatively judge the work of Dick Chimney? I know he's had the job for 30 years and there's unions involved. I'm sure he's in a union, like a journalist union and stuff. So it would probably be almost impossible to fire him for, say, when you have that much tenure, so to speak, and you're in a union, you probably can't fire him. If you could, he'd have to do something really bad. And writing a column that's not great probably doesn't rise to that level. Gang Green Goliath. No, we got 3 license plates back there. Well, really 5, actually. I guess I went crazy on the license plates. One of them is the out of time Back to the Future license plate. The orange one is also from Back to the Future. That's from Back to the Future 3. Then I got one that just says the A-Team because I like the A-Team. Then we got an 82nd Airborne Division 1, and then we got one from UCF. So we actually got 5 back there. Spin Max Dave. Yeah, but I mean, Spin Max, we got to get their information I'm not at the facility. That's the only advantage these people have is they go to the facility. They get to watch practices with their eyes. I watched it with my eyes, which is why it's good that we have people like Richie from Jets Media and even that Cortland son of a bitch, Will Parkinson from Badlands. It's better to have Will Parkinson there, as brain dead as he is, and even though he's a Cortland grad. Even with that, he's much better than the rest of these bums. And then Richie's pretty good. That was a quality Frankie rant. FSPN, no, Phil, we will not. No. On a business, I mean, think of what just happened. ESPN's doing a deal with the NFL where the NFL is going to own 10% of ESPN. The ESPN is inevitable. Live sports are inevitable. It will be impossible for FSPN to catch them. Things like All City, maybe I'll do a media video soon. Things like All City are going really well. When All City comes to New York, it's going to be interesting to see how the independent channels like Badlands and Jets X Factor and Nick's X Factor and Richie's Roundtable and all these things. The Jet Press. It'll be interesting to see if All City scoops them up. But most of that is for the Jets. What about the Yankees and the Mets and all the sports that are in New York? So we'll see. Goldstein is here. B. Goldie. I thought Martinez threw too much to the check down where Cook was looking downfield. Man, this would take a long analysis. Martinez had some long throws, though. I don't have my thing here. And plus, I didn't look at the my drive charts did not cover the second half of the game. There's just too many bad players playing. Yeah. I mean, the reality is we got to see the real team play the real game. You know, you can't fix bad players. They're just bad players. And they shouldn't be playing. Like Rashad Weaver's not going to, well, let's hope Rashad Weaver isn't on this team. Let's hope, some of these bums get cut, and then you got to see how the real players play. It's like when we were talking about the roster spin, Max. You could say the team all you want, but you need good players. And looking at the roster, there's not enough. So if you take the first stringers out, there's certainly not going to be enough because then everybody moves up one level. And the guys in the back are awful, as I said at the time when we were signing these bums. So, we just don't have enough good players. And we could fix some of it. We could sign Justin Simmons right now. We could sign Zadarius Smith or Jadeveon Clowney right now today. No reason. If we have the money, we have a need on the team. We have a bunch of bums. They're not going to develop. We need players who are going to play. We were told this is not a rebuild. That's the other thing people need to reckon with. We and the players were told this is not a rebuild. We're going to try to win. That's what we were told by AG. So if you're saying this is actually a rebuild, you're saying Coach AG is a liar. That's just the facts of it. Well, if that's the case and we got $30 million in cap space, I just don't see why we wouldn't sign a safety, which we need very badly, and a defensive end, which are just sitting right there to improve what we got. We need to bump everybody back playing time wise because the guys that are behind the starters are very bad. Some of them. So I don't know. I mean, one of the things we got to watch for is if this coaching staff actually thinks it's better than it is, that's one of the most deadliest sins you could have in being able to take a guy who stinks and make them good. Oh, we're going to fix him. What? That's ridiculous. That doesn't happen. A quarterback's excluded. That's a different category. But guys are who they are. You could use them in a different role. Yeah. You could utilize their talents a little better. Yeah. But, if you're a coaching staff who thinks you can take a bum and make him good, what you're actually doing is not self-scouting yourself as a coach and realizing, oh, we can't do that. You're overestimating your ability as a coach. And that would be terrible for us. All right. Nothing else going on. So all that's going on now in the NFL, there'll be more preseason games today going on. So forth and so on. Joe Mike taking us out for the day. We're going to call it a day right here. Off topic, did you see the Billy Joel doc on HBO? No, I did not, Joe Mike. I'll check it out at some point. And so that'll do it for today. So if you enjoyed the show, please give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. And we will be back live for the watch along on Friday night on Green Bean's channel when we play the Eagles. That should be interesting. Then after that, the season's going to start. So we'll see how it all plays